Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenido a una nueva edición de Doble Check, tu podcast de tecnología, hoy de la mano de Vida y Futuro. En esta edición te voy a compartir una entrevista que tuve hace unos días con el doctor Rowland Illing, que es el director médico global de AWS, y con él conversé sobre cómo es que están influyendo la computación en nube y la inteligencia artificial justamente en un área tan complicada, tan sensible y de tanto interés para todos nosotros como la salud. Se trató de una charla muy interesante en donde el especialista, el vocero de AWS, en realidad brinda información muy esclarecedora sobre cómo la tecnología hoy está empezando a resolver problemas que hemos arrastrado históricamente en todo el mundo y que parece que realmente sí pueden tener solución. La entrevista está en inglés, entonces quienes estén revisando este podcast en su versión de video van a poder ver los subtítulos. Disculpen que mi inglés no sea tan bueno. Si lo estás escuchando solamente, nuevamente mil disculpas, pero en Spotify también va a tener su versión en video. Y ahí vas a poder ver los subtítulos para, sobre todo, poder entender mejor algunas cuestiones un poquito más técnicas que nos explican cómo la tecnología está impactando y particularmente la computación en nube y la inteligencia artificial están impactando en la salud en el mundo. From your experience, how can cloud computing would transform healthcare systems, particularly in context where the sector faces such complex and constant structural challenges?
But so, first of all, lovely to meet you. Yes, I'll go straight in. As the chief medical officer, global chief medical officer for Amazon Web Services, I spend a lot of time talking to end users of the technology. So, national government, states, hospital systems, research organizations, payers as well. So, not just providers, but also payer organizations. And then the technology ecosystem that supports them. And cloud computing has been adopted through most industries already. So if you think about banking or telecommunications or advertising, pretty much all of that now has moved into the cloud. And the reasons for that is that cloud gives you much better security than running things on premises, because you can offset the physical management of the physical data centers to other people who have got deep expertise. It provides scale, so you can scale up and down as needed if you're doing lots of compute or storage or you're doing big workloads. And that enables you a very good place to build. So actually you can build applications faster using these components, parts, these services that we manage on behalf of the builders. And so there are a lot of reasons why all industries are moving to the cloud. Healthcare has just been slower, I think, to get there, but we're seeing a big inflection point at the moment where we're seeing a lot of end users, governments and hospital systems and research organizations, diagnostic networks, moving into the cloud today. And for all of the same reasons. They need deep security, they need the ability to scale, and they need modern applications that can work for them. So, for example, we do lots of work at the national government level across countries like the United Kingdom, in the United States, Australia at the state level. So in Australia, we're about to launch the largest single digital patient record on the Epic platform. The Epic electronic medical record platform will be the largest installation of Epic globally, going live in March. So a single digital patient record for the entire state of New South Wales. So, and all hosted on the cloud. So we're seeing a massive transformation for provision of healthcare, and then AI and the ability to deliver AI and agents at scale requires cloud computing to build out these massive models. So on one hand, we have the end users requiring it because of their own resiliency. but also the way the applications are being built and the AI capability behind it requires the cloud. You won't have AI without the cloud. And that is a really important point to take away.
How viable is it for healthcare systems in emerging economics like Peru, for instance, to implement these types of cloud solutions?
I think it's very straightforward if in certain conditions. And so every country in which we work, we have dedicated healthcare teams in all the regions around the world, working with end customers and understanding the local environment. And every local environment is different. There are different regulations, there are different safeguards, there's different policies. But we have a deep understanding of the local regulation and policy environment. We work very closely with agencies, government agencies, about how we can deploy things securely and at scale. And we have great success, for instance, in Brazil. We're working very closely with the Brazilian government at a national level, and then also at regional levels where we've got Mater Dei Hospital, their health network. They're developing agents on AWS today that works across the revenue cycle system. And so Mater Dei have got 12 now autonomous AI agents working in the cloud to look at their revenue cycle management. And so they're able to shorten the cycle to understand the process of billing that takes place for all of the patients, because it's incredibly complex. And so they're able to leverage these tools. So they have over 500% return on investment in the first cycle, because they can reduce the amount of time taken by people to manage the process flow to get payments made by between 36 and 54%. So it's a massive time saving that you can bring technology to do.
I've been reading something you called the sovereign platforms for healthcare data storage. Could you provide me more details about this concept?
Sure. So digital sovereignty means different things to different people. And so some states, digital sovereignty means they have to have all of the data stored within their physical borders. Others say that digital sovereignty is around sovereign control of data wherever it sits. And so with the modern computing environment, which is decentralized, it could be spread over many different countries, you have choice about where you store your data. And so individual organizations, even national countries, can choose where they actually store and back up their data. And that sovereign control is really important. So we build all of our regions. So when we create a region, it's a geographic area that has 3 logically separated zones which can communicate with each other to provide great resiliency. If you choose to store data within a region, you can turn things on and off and move them around, but only you have the keys to access that data. And so the sovereign control, so we build all of our regions as sovereign by design. Because if you have your keys to your data, you have choice about where to host it, but only you can access it. AWS cannot access your data. And that is really, really important. Now, in some geographies, they have stipulated that they also would like further levels of control. And so the European Sovereign Cloud has been launched, which is not only sovereign by design, it's the same infrastructure as we run everywhere around the world. But it is a legal entity that is actually hosted in Europe, and it is managed by European citizens. And so that's an operational sovereignty as well as logical, technical sovereignty. Now, we understand that many countries around the world cannot have full regions within their geographic boundaries, because it takes a lot of investment and scale and time to do. We're investing more and more. So we're releasing a new region in Latin America this year, and we're setting up a new region in Saudi Arabia this year as well. And so we're building out our physical infrastructure all the time to provide even more capability. But At the moment, if you would like sovereign control of your data, you can have that today across our network.
We understand that when discussing health and artificial intelligence, data security is the primary concern from the patient, right? Now, if we consider the sensitivity of health records, that concern only grows, right?
So security is always a shared responsibility between the provider of the technology platform, so AWS, and the companies who build upon it, so the solution builders. So we build a lot of tools that local builders can build out their own platforms. And then the solution providers have to make sure that the solutions that they are building are compliant with local regulations. So, for instance, we work very closely with Liberty Health in Brazil. They're a specialized management technology for the healthcare sector, and they want to be innovative. And so they're using AWS Cloud and the Amazon Bedrock generative AI service. So they're able to use different types of foundation models to integrate healthcare data from millions of patients across Brazil into a single repository, a health lake. And so doctors using the Liberty Health platform are able to integrate all of the patient's data across all of the different data sources in order to generate summaries of patients' histories into one paragraph. That solution can send alerts about changes in exam status, and it can generate predictive analytics. And it impacts 7 million patients per month across 187 institutions in Brazil, from local polyclinics to hospitals to local centers. And again, it's the scale that you can build out, but it requires local entities to own the process from their end. So in order to maintain security of passwords, make sure local compliance is in place, and we can provide scalable, resilient infrastructure and make sure that the users know how to use it. So we have a responsibility to make sure that people who build on our platform understand the platform and the regulatory frameworks that are in place in the countries in which they operate.
What kind of solutions have AWS in these cases for rescue and maybe the right value of that information, that knowledge?
So we start a lot of conversations we have with healthcare customers start around AI, because with the new technology for large language models and agentic AI now coming in for automation, that's where the conversation starts. But we find that organizations that are successful need to actually have a foundational layer, which is their data strategy. And so how to really think about managing their data at scale. And so a lot of the work that we do as AWS, we will talk to end users and say, okay, how have you considered managing that data layer and separating the applications from the core data types? So we have been building healthcare specific services, so managed packets of code that can manage specific types of data. So for healthcare text data, we have AWS Health Lake. For imaging data, DICOM standard is AWS Health Imaging. And for genomic data, we built AWS Health Omics. So these core components can be used to make sense of that core data layer. And we also work with the big data platforms like Snowflake and Databricks. And we have our own entity, which is called SageMaker Unified Studio, which can ingest different data from lots of unstructured formats and can make sense of it as that data layer. Because once the data is organized and normalized, then we can start thinking about what to do with it on top and how to make sense. And also use de-identified data as well. So we have some tools internally that can do that. So we're working with the University of Sao Paulo and Hospital das Clínicas in Brazil and they developed a specialized large language model to try and deal with hospital litigation. There's a lot of litigation that happens in healthcare normally. And so they're expecting it to grow to the 800,000 new cases across the country in 2025. That's how much litigation takes place. So they wanted to build a solution that can ingest healthcare data and then anonymize it and de-identify it in order to then, develop solutions that will address the issue of this burgeoning litigation. So they were able to, come up with a solution, trained on de-identified data, and they can use automated screening of litigation cases, and they can screen up to 80% by itself, classifying it by urgency and summarizing petitions and discussions, and trying to shorten the time to outcomes being made. And so, we're working with the Judiciary Technology Support Centers, and they can reduce the claim times now from weeks to hours based upon this very large data set they've built and the technology on top. But it requires data platforms and data strategy underneath.
How possible is that a hospital could use the power of cloud computing plus AI, for example, to research about specific disease, but maybe they don't have a large enough patient sample to generate significant data? How cloud plus AI could help this kind of health center?
Yeah, so the problem of rare diseases is very important. And so again, the technology that we have built enables collaboration between different centers on specific disease entities which are rare and they may not see enough of. And so an example is the work that we did around the Children's Brain Tumor Network, which came out of the President Biden, the second administration in the US. And we working with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia on the Children's Brain Tumor Network, which is a decentralized, federated, secure platform to share patient information on rare disease entities, because some types of children's brain tumor are very, very rare. And so we've created a network of 36 hospitals from the US and international, and they are able to share information about a young patient's clinical history, genetic data, pathology data, imaging data on a single platform. And they are able to, and it's managed and it's fully compliant, and it's fully cloud-based. And then researchers are able to go in and analyze all of the data across all of those centers to come up with new diagnosis and treatment. And so in order to scale across multiple countries, that's really important. We also are working with a company called Thread, THREAD, and they've developed a decentralized clinical trials platform for the same reason. And so I think the power of cloud and AI will massively democratize access to care and clinical trials around the world.
A huge problem we have here in Peru. Is the cloud capable to solving this critical problem, such as delays in the patient's appointments? Here in Peru, for instance, in the Social Security, they can schedule your next appointment 3 or 4 months from now. It can be dangerous for the patients. The cloud help in this situation?
Yeah, so we have a great example. So we've just launched. We have an agent enabled patient engagement platform. So we have a virtual call center which is called Connect, and then we've built with a healthcare specific version of Connect, which is a patient engagement platform. And so we've been working very close to the University of San Diego on this. And in Jupiter Medical Center, which is in Florida, they have they used Connect. So they were having a big problem with waiting times and backlogs. And so they had over 1,800 people waiting for appointments. And the problem was also about the call center itself. So they were having almost 10% call drop rate. So people were phoning up to try and make an appointment and they weren't getting through, so they was putting the phone down. So their call drop rate was about 9%. And so they were able to implement a cloud-enabled, agent-led engagement platform, and they were able to reduce that waiting time down by, well, they were able to reduce the operating expenses by 30%. So that was a massive saving. And also they were able to reduce the call drop rate from 9% to 4%. And they were able to reduce their waiting time by 60% over 3 months. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. And so, the ability for patients to find the right care at the right time is really important. And in terms of Peru, and we have been committed to Peru for a long time. So we've opened up our first office in 2021. We've been investing in local infrastructure. So we've got a local zone in Lima and a CloudFront edge, within Peru itself. And, we believe that it will have a significant impact on the whole, on all of Peruvian society. But I'm personally invested in making sure it's successful in healthcare and life sciences. And the great thing is that we've been recognized by IDC as the leader of the infrastructure as a service, cloud provider in the whole of Latin America and in Peru. And so that we're working across lots of different sectors, including public sector. And we want to really, work alongside the government. Obviously the government launched its national artificial intelligence strategy, and how we can work with the government to support that is very important.
You mentioned these AI agents or the agentic AI, that there are these things that play an special role in the automation of the workflow in the organizations. How can the healthcare organizations prepare for use this technology in this moment?
Sure. So I think the first thing is just the definition of an agent. So an agent is an autonomous piece of software that can sense its environment, so digital environment or even physical environment with sensors, and it can then undertake tasks, so human given tasks, but it can complete them in non-linear pathways. So it's not prescriptive steps, because often if you have a prescriptive steps, things stop and get in the way. So agents are able to work around problems in order to achieve goals and then take action. And that's the key. So they're able to actually produce actions of themselves. And so Amazon One Medical, so Amazon.com Health Services just launched a health assistant for their platform built on AWS. So we provide services to Amazon.com Health Services as we do any other customer. And so Amazon One Medical have just launched a health assistant with agent capabilities. So you can engage with an agent and say, I would like to see a doctor next week, and the agent can make the appointment for you. And it can say, well, actually, there's no appointment free next week. There's an appointment tomorrow. Would you like to do tomorrow? And you can actually have an engagement with it, and they can make the booking. So the ability for agents to take action is really key. Now, we're very lucky in that a large number of big healthcare technology companies are built on AWS. So we're working very closely with MV Systems in Brazil. It's a big electronic medical record provider. Philips and Tasy and Epic is building all over. We've got over 40 hospital systems now moving their EHR environments on Epic into the cloud. In imaging, most of the large medical imaging companies are now building on AWS. So GE Healthcare, Philips, Agfa, they're building out their imaging platforms. We work with the top 4 out of the top 5 genomic sequencing companies like Illumina and Oxford Nanopore Technologies. And so a lot of the technology companies are building on AWS, and they are creating agentic platforms as well. So the company Innovasa just launched a healthcare agent platform for hospital operations called Gravity. And so again, so we're seeing a lot of the companies that are building on top of AWS are using our core capabilities to develop these new solutions for hospital systems. And of course,
Yes.
I didn't mention life sciences. So pharmaceutical companies and biopharmaceutical companies have been very advanced in their use of agents at every stage in drug discovery and clinical trials. So from research and development of new drugs, clinical trial organization, collection of data, submission to regulatory authorities, commercialization and manufacturing, all of those stages can be affected by agents. And so we're working with AstraZeneca and Novartis, Roche. They're all building. So again, 19 of the top 20 global pharmaceutical companies use AWS for their drug discovery.
Okay, well, Dr. Illing, thank you deeply for your time, overall for this information with me. I hope I hope to talk with you again soon.
I'm very happy to talk. I think I'm very passionate about making sure that and if everyone in the media understands the really exciting time we're living in now. I think it's really important that there's so much change taking place so quickly. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again, because I think there'll be more changes happening week by week.